Hello, my name is Jonathan Scott. I'm an English teacher living in Japan, and recently, as part of my curriculum, I've been taking my higher level students and running them through Dungeons and Dragons games. It's a way to help them increase their fluency, give them a lot of exposure to English. Anyway, when I first started doing this a couple of years ago, I was looking on the net for good how-to videos on how to become a better DM. And I saw a lot of stuff, but none of it really seemed like it applied to me because I really like, first edition. All the stuff that's out there now is for later editions, like fourth and fifth. And I really like first edition. And you figure that's the thing that made those guys famous. So, um, anyway, I wanted to stay true to it. I also own some of the books. I didn't need to go out and buy new ones. That's for me personally. Other people might want to buy the fifth edition if you want, but so anyway, I thought I'd make a series of blogs, so to help out new DMs, to help them figure out, you know, to get them to not make the mistakes I made when I first started running as a DM. I'm not the best DM, you know. I'll say that from the get-go. When I show this video, there's going to be a lot of people putting stuff in the comments saying, "Oh, that's dumb. Oh, that's dumb." And a lot of it might be the truth, but nonetheless, I have figured out some stuff, and I'll show that to you, and hopefully it'll help the newer guys get into it. First edition, second edition, it still is affordable. You can get this stuff on the net pretty cheap, in some places. Not all of it, of course. There are the expensive things, but the stuff is still affordable. Anyway, so I'll just get going. So the first thing when you play this game you're going to need is the rules, right? So the rules, the thing is, Gary Gygax said something interesting about the rules. He said,
"The secret we should never let the game masters know is that they don't need any rules."
once you realize that as a DM, your job gets a whole bunch easier. When you first look at these books, so like this thing right here, right? It's a big, huge, thick book, and it's got a lot of pages in it. And when you first start looking through this thing, you think, do I have to really memorize all of this? I mean, is this really something that I need to know everything about? And you don't. When I first started playing back in the 70s and 80s, I played with a guy, his name was Fred Funk. He wasn't my first DM, but he was the best. He was one of the original playtesters in D&D. What he did was he just used those three small little teeny tiny books from the original Dungeons and Dragons. They were really thin. And that was it. The big thing, he didn't have anything else aside from dice and those three little teeny tiny books from original edition. Maybe someday I'll show them to you. You can see them on the net. But anyway, you don't need a lot of rules. You just don't. And, well, I'll talk about it some more. So anyway, these are the three books you're going to need to begin with. Of the three, honestly speaking, they're all really important. You need all three. But these are the ones that actually show the rules to the game, right? It'll show you how to make a character, it'll show you how to run a character, it'll show you how to deal with spells and magic items and all the rest of it. And in your dungeons, you're probably going to want your characters to come up against monsters, right? So you need this third book so that you can populate your dungeons. These are all first edition books, and I love them. These are the things that I grew up with, and if I have to choose between anything on this table, this is what I'm going to be keeping. Because this is all you need, right? The thing is, later on in the 80s, they came out with second edition. The Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide and Monstrous Manual. It's the same thing as those books over there that I just showed you. But in second edition, they just cleaned everything up. And they did a really good job. So if I have to, honestly speaking, between the books that I love over there and these books, this is the better game. I mean, I hate to say this because I really love those, but these, they just cleaned everything up and made it a lot wider and brighter and cleaner and easier to understand. So that's my decision. That's what I prefer. I live in Japan and I teach I play these games with Japanese people, so I was lucky enough to find these on the internet. And it's both of the books in Japanese, which is really handy. I try not to show it to my students because I want them to learn everything from English. But in those instances where they absolutely have to hear it in a foreign language, that's what I use. And then after that, what you're going to need is, after the rules, you need a good story, right? These are old and ugly because they've been used a bunch. And I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm sorry, don't laugh. This is one of the best modules you ever come across, but it's really hard to learn. It's like a college class trying to learn this thing. But I've run this thing a couple of times, and it's pretty rewarding. This is what we started out with when I was a kid. Keep on the Borderlands. This one's pretty old and ugly too. Boy, it's been around since the 70s, so... Oh, 1980. 1980, 1981. So that means this is a 36-year-old book. If any of my other books look like this on my library shelf, I'd be tempted to kind of chuck it out the door, you know. But this one is like, this is the backbone of D&D. When it first came out, this was included with the rule sets. So anyway, when you play D&D, you got two things you got to keep in mind. You've got the story, but then you've also got the rules. So over there you got all the rules books. But then once you got all the rules down, you need a story that'll keep your characters interested, your players interested. So this one's good. You have to realize what this is, though. I mean, when D&D first started, basically all they did was they just took a map, right? They took a map, and then they had all you had all your players go through this map, and then they'd go to each individual room, they'd find out what was in the room, they'd kill what was in the room, they'd take the treasure, and then they'd move on to the next room. And that's all Keep on the Borderlands is. It's basically just a map full of stuff that your players can kill. But because it's where everybody started, it's the most popular. Right? It's the thing everybody's still thinking about. But as far as depth, you'll find a lot more depth in some of the newer stuff. I guess it's up to you what kind of a game you want to run. I mean, when we first began, it was just a bunch of kids sitting around a table, and the DM didn't know much, and the players didn't know much. So this was perfect for us. You didn't have to do much thinking. It's just you went around and you tried to kill stuff, you know. And it's a good place to begin if you really don't know what you're doing. And you can get these pretty cheap still on the net, you know, $10, $15 for not a good quality one, right? But then later on something like this shows up, and this is like a huge investment of your life. You can't just walk into this thing and start running it. You have to study. It's 128 pages, and it's so complex. You know, so anyway, you're going to need a story, something to run your characters through. I wouldn't start here. If you start here, you're going to give up on the game. I'd start with Keep on the Borderlands. As you play, of course, you're going to need dice. As the DM, you should consider having enough so that everybody in your game can play. I mean, it's nice when everybody can just show up no matter what they have and just start playing. So if you have enough, then it makes your player's life a lot easier. One other thing that's helpful are these DM screens. So as you play the game, information, you're going to need access to all information. You're going to need the information quickly, right? You're going to need it like right away. So what they would do is they would set these screens up in front of the DM, and then as the DM's playing, he can just quickly look at information and know what to do next. Because if you just use the rule books, I mean, you're going to be flipping through pages, and it gets boring, and your players aren't interested. In second edition, things got a little bit better, so you're able to, the DM screen got easier. So anyway, the DM screens are good. They've got everything in there you need, but even then you have to learn the screen so you know where to look for things. And that's handy. This one came with a module. For me personally, that particular DM screen wasn't enough, so I went and I made my own. So basically I went through the DMG, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Player's Handbook, and I took out all the stuff that I personally wanted to have access to in a game, and I printed it out and laminated it. And then it's a little bit more complex, and it's got everything I need right all sitting together in one binder. Anyway, I like it. So these are like the essentials, stuff that you'll need when you first start playing a game. And yeah. Anyway, one other thing. Well, of course, paper. And as an English teacher, right? So when students play the game, eventually they come across new words. This is just for teachers, right? So eventually they're going to come across words that they don't know, that they're going to need to know. Like recently when they were going through White Plume Mountain, we came across the words algae and moss. And most kids, when they're in school, don't study those words. They just don't. So we came across, I put these words and then I put the Japanese translations next to them. Algae is mo and moss is koki, right? And then as we play the game, I just make a big long list of all the new words that they encounter, and then they can study those words. They can make notes on their own. The other thing after that I think is really necessary are maps. So this is a map from Temple of Elemental Evil. And when D&D first came out with their maps, those guys actually didn't have the ability to draw very fine. I mean, this is what they were capable of. They took a sheet of paper and they drew on it, and then they photocopied it and stuck it in their books, and that's great. At the time, that was enough for us, right? But when you're playing D&D, I get stressed out because there's so much information flying around, and you are responsible to know all of it. So the biggest thing you can do for yourself is to take this information and make it easily accessible all the time, right? So what I did was I went through the maps and I rewrote them, and then I added who was in each room. So like in Area 16, there's a giant tick, right? And down here, rotting drawbridge, huge spider, thieves, brigands, right? So as a DM, when I'm looking at this map, I can see everything that's going to happen around them. So I don't have to constantly be looking things up in the text of the module. I just know, it's all here. I got it. And because sometimes they'll do something in one room that affects what happens in another, and then if you can see what's happening in all the areas, you can react to that. So what I suggest that you do is you take the maps that are in your modules and you photocopy them, and then you make notes, right? And then once you've made your notes, you're using it at the table, and it's good. See, these, when I first started DMing, I thought it would be a good idea to laminate them. So I started playing with these things, and I realized that as the people are going through these modules, you want the ability to make notes, right? You want to be able to write on the borders, oh, they did this, oh, they didn't do this, right? So laminating your map isn't actually that great of an idea. Instead, I put it into a PDF file on the computer, and then that makes it so that as we're playing, I can just check off the areas that they've gone through. And if there are notes I need to make, I can do that if they somehow affect the module. So anyway, that's the basics, right? I know that look like a lot, but all it is really is rule books and a module, dice, paper, for me a whiteboard, and a good map, right? The old maps are great. I sure do love them, but if you can do this with your maps, it makes your life so much easier. You can react so much quicker to everything that's going on. So anyway, I think I was going to come out with these video blogs about once a week, and I've actually got quite a lot I can say. And go ahead and comment below and subscribe, and as these new videos show up, you'll hear about it, and you'll be able to watch them for yourself, or check them out as they show up. So thank you, I'd appreciate hearing your wisdom. Go ahead, please comment below. Thanks a lot. Bye bye. Oh, by the way, my name is Jonathan Scott. I've been playing since I was about 15 or 14. Right now I'm 50, so that means I've been playing for 35 years. I've only been a DM for a couple, though. So, thanks a lot. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.